Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this session that is called It Doesn't Have to Be Expensive to Study in the UK. We ask you to please mute your microphones and also to wait to ask your questions after the presentation through the chat. Thank you. I am Fabiola Delfin from Inova Education. Inova can help you to apply to De Montfort University. It can guide you through the scholarship process and help you with the visa process as well for free. Here with us is Jamie Ash. He is Regional Manager for Central and South America of De Montfort University, and he will be presenting today. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Fabiola, and hi, everyone. So I represent De Montfort University, and I also represent the Latin American regions, so Central and South America. And of course, we work very closely with Inova to support students with whatever they need. De Montfort University is based in Leicester. So today, what I wanted to do is really talk to you about how to potentially study in the UK at a lower cost than you perhaps may have thought. Now, of course, as I represent and work with De Montfort University, I have used the university and Leicester, which is the city it is situated in, as a case study to give you some idea about actually what some of the costs to study in the UK might be and how they may be lower than you think. If at any point anybody doesn't understand me, I guess you can leave a question at the end of the presentation and I can perhaps answer you and clarify any points. So this presentation, what will it cover? It won't be too long. I won't bore you and kill you with PowerPoint. It'll be a couple of slides with some information, and I'll be talking about the slides and really vocally giving you some information as opposed to putting lots of stats and data on the PowerPoint. The presentation will cover the cost of living, and it's really an analysis versus popular European destinations, because a lot of the time the questions I hear a lot from students is, oh, but it's cheaper to live in France, or it's cheaper to live in Holland, or it's cheaper to live in Spain or Germany. And actually, when we look at the comparison between these places and perhaps Leicester, you'll see that actually maybe there isn't such a difference. And then, of course, you get a lot of students that say, well, actually, I thought the USA is cheaper than the UK. You know, we go to the US because it's cheaper. But actually, when you look at the cost of tuition fees, again, you may be surprised at the analysis. I want to talk to you then a little bit about the possibility to study whilst working and actually manage your expectations about working, because a lot of the time we get questions about whether a student can work and study and actually the reality of working and studying. And then I wanted to give you a little bit of a presentation about why De Montfort and what the university offers. The presentation shouldn't be no longer than really around 20 minutes long, and then we can have some questions afterwards. And of course, if you want to have more detail, please contact Inova, who are fantastic and will respond to you very quickly with information that you need. And if they want to get in touch with me for more clarification, I'm always here to support as well. So let's start with Leicester. Why Leicester? Why am I using Leicester? Well, actually, Leicester is one of the most cost-effective cities to live in the UK. It consistently ranks amongst the top 5 places to live in terms of cost-effectiveness. Not only that, but it's a very nice city, which is not too big and not too small. It's a city which is very manageable, and actually, when you look at the student population of the city, it's a very student-focused environment. So when there are 2 major universities in Leicester, there's a University of Leicester and De Montfort University Leicester. So actually, a lot of the proportion of the city is students of many different nationalities, many British students. So you get a very good student atmosphere and great student life. And the great thing about Leicester, honestly, I have to tell you, is it's so close to London. You can get to London in 55 minutes on the train. So you actually have the benefit of living in a cost-effective city and the ability to be able to travel to London in 55 minutes. So going to London for the day is really not difficult. There are trains every hour, so you could leave it very early in the morning, get there in 55 minutes, do whatever you want to do in London and be back in Leicester the same evening. And actually, if you think about people that live in London, Many people that live in boroughs of London, a borough or a part outside of London, can take them over 1 hour just to get to the centre of London. So sometimes you could travel more quickly from Leicester to London than living in Greater London and travelling into London. I have a YouTube video here that I can send a link. I can put the link on the chat afterwards, so you can have a look and see a little bit about Leicester. So what did I want to talk about today? Well, actually about the low cost of living. So what I did is I said, okay, what are the main challenges about the UK? And that is often the cost of living. And I said, okay, well, what are those challenges? And lots of those challenges are, well, it's cheaper to live in Spain or France or Germany or Holland. But actually, if you look on this side of the presentation, which is the right-hand side, taken from various sources off the internet, which I did some research some time ago, those are a very rough average of what it might cost you yearly to live in Europe, in euros, and then converted to Mexican pesos based on the most recent conversion rate. And actually, you can see that looking on the left-hand side, which is living in Leicester, the price is almost identical. So actually, what is this? This is a city in the UK at a very similar cost to one of the countries in Europe. Now, given there are some countries that are cheaper, but if you look at the average of all these countries, you can see that actually living in the UK in that city is not as expensive as you thought. And this is based on accommodation and living expenses, including food per year. So this is a DMU Leicester yearly average cost versus the European yearly average cost. So again, you can see that, yes, it isn't cheap. I'm not going to, as we say in Colombian Spanish, pintar los pájaros en el cielo. I don't know if you say that in Mexican Spanish or not, but it's not going to tell you that you can live very, very cheap. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not as expensive as you thought. It doesn't have to be as expensive. And actually, when you look at the cost of living in Leicester, you can rent a place to live for very cheap. And actually, if you take in all of your food and toiletries and books and stationery and laundry and phone and internet and other things, you can live for as little as £850 per month, which for the UK and actually Europe is very cheap. Another important thing to remember about living in Leicester is that you won't need to pay for transport. De Montfort is right in the middle of the city. You can walk everywhere. So the need to pay for transport, which you may have paid otherwise, could very easily be put towards traveling to London, going to any European cities via flight when we're all allowed to fly again. And also there's lots of very nice places to eat and very inexpensive. So the cost of living, the message for this is that the cost of living in Leicester is low and obviously not as expensive as people say. London, on the other hand, is, and that's known to be an expensive city, and that is arguably one of the most expensive cities in the world. But what you shouldn't do is think about the UK and London as the same thing, because actually outside of London, there are very many places to live that are a lot more cost effective. The next slide that I wanted to talk about was the low cost of study. Now, I say low cost of study, I should really say lower cost of study, because of course, it's not entirely low, but it's lower than perhaps you thought. And a lot of the time when I'm out with De Montfort and at fairs, people say, oh, I'm going to study in the US. And I'll say, well, why are you going to study in the US perhaps? And they say, oh, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper than the UK. But actually it's not. If you take from the US a news source, the average cost of studying in the US, and this is actually a very low cost because this takes into account community colleges, in-state tuition, and other variables that actually make it a lot lower than it is. This should be actually higher. Studying at De Montfort, for example, and in the UK is actually a lot cheaper than the US, 39% cheaper to be precise. So the message is that people have this perception of the dollar and the US being cheaper and the pound being heavy, expensive currency. But actually, when you look at the cost, relatively speaking, it's actually cheaper to study in the UK at many institutions, including De Montfort. Another thing to remember is that if you do a master's degree, for example, a postgrado, a master's degree, it's 1 year, whereas in the US, it would be 2 years. So again, you're saving money on the duration of the study. And you could even do an undergraduate degree in the UK in 3 years if you're from an international university, as opposed to 4 years, which most US universities will have you study. And this price here, to make you aware, includes a £2,000 discount for Latin students. It's a scholarship especially for Latin students because De Montfort love Latin students and we want to have a bigger community of Latin students. So off the first year of study, £2,000 can be deducted, and that will give you this base price here. If I talk to you about the general prices at De Montfort, you can see again that the prices are actually lower than you may have thought. And if you take £2,000 off these prices, it gets you to a lower price than you would do in the US in dollars, you know, and in Mexican pesos. So the idea of it being too expensive to study in the UK and no, I'm going to the US because I feel it's cheaper is actually a myth. Now, of course, there are some universities and maybe perhaps European countries that perhaps do offer lower tuition fees, of course. But you must remember that the quality and level of education that you receive in the UK is the best in the world. And so for the price that this offers versus the quality of the program, it's very good. And actually it shows that it's not as expensive as you think. And actually the return on investment that you can get from studying is very good as well. It's high. We have some alumni scholarships, and actually we have lots of scholarships. This is the scholarship that's actually for Latin students, the £2,000. And also for any MBA students or business school students, we also have some full scholarships and £5,000 towards living costs. So please do inquire with Inova about those scholarships if you'd like to apply. Very interestingly as well, we have an LGBTQ scholarship, 2 of those, full ones for the year. So if anyone's from that community, they can also apply for the scholarship. And we also have a sports scholarship. So you can see that there is lots of support for students in order to get those prices of the tuition fees down and give you the opportunity to be able to study at De Montfort. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the possibility to work. Now, many students would say, well, actually, you know, maybe it won't be too expensive because I can work and study. Well, you can and you should, but it's sometimes quite difficult. The Tier 4 visa, which you will get to study in the UK, does enable you to work 20 hours per week. And it does enable you to work 40 hours per week during vacations. So that's almost full time. That is full time. And you can earn approximately £10 per hour. So if you work 20 hours per week, you could earn approximately £200 per week. However, there is a bit of a caveat with that, and that is that if you are studying in your final year, maybe of your undergraduate degree or a master's degree, it is quite difficult to work all of those hours because you will be very busy. But there is the support for you to be able to work. And De Montfort are very good at helping students get part-time jobs, whether it's in the university or if you want to look outside of the university. There is work for you and you will be able to find a part-time job. So when you're there, it's always very good to try and get some work to allow yourself to have some money to be able to work and pay for maybe perhaps food. The good thing about the UK now, and again, this is a really great benefit to the UK, which the government are still planning to announce after COVID, but it's still happening, that there's a 2-year post-work visa. And that means that after you finish your undergraduate or your postgraduate degree, you have the right to stay in the UK and work full-time for 2 years. So that means that you could earn pounds for 2 years and effectively even pay off what you have paid to study, because obviously the pound's strong and you can earn good wages in a full-time job. So hopefully these prior slides give you an idea and maybe debunk, we say in English, debunk a myth that you think it might be too expensive to study, and it doesn't have to be expensive to study in the UK. Now, I understand, of course, that against the Mexican peso, or indeed any other currency within Latin America, it might be difficult. I've just used the Mexican peso here as an example. But you know, again, you can see in pounds and euros, it is more expensive, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be as expensive as you think. I wanted to talk to you about De Montfort in general and talk to you about the university. In 2017, the university was awarded the Gold Teaching Excellence Framework, and the Teaching Excellence Framework takes in many different elements of how De Montfort teach their students. And what the real idea of this is to understand is, what does the student benefit from the teaching at De Montfort? Now, if you get a gold in teaching standards and the framework, it means that the students are benefiting from the teaching. And that usually comes from employment, to how they're taught, to the quality of teachers teaching. And De Montfort were given gold. So the excellence and the quality of teaching is very high. And you even get professors teaching you who are already working in an industry. So you could have a professor in business that's the CEO of a company. You could have somebody in engineering that's working for BMW. The professors that teach at De Montfort are all either industry trained or working in the industry. So you get this real practical element of teaching. Some universities are very research focused, but De Montfort is very student focused, and that student focus means that it's very practical, and they help you understand and gain knowledge and experience in each subject to be able to go on and do great things afterwards. These are just some pictures of some of the stuff that goes on in De Montfort, but it's a very artistic, it's very new, it's very modern, it's very creative university. And you see that the student population and the professors are all very friendly. It's a very close community, albeit lots of students. And it's a very nice place to be. It's a very nice campus to be on. You feel like you're in a very postmodern, very nice environment, effectively. These are just some of the programs that they offer. Very strong in art, design, and humanities. And Jimmy Chu is an honorary doctorate at De Montfort, actually, and many other alumni that come from De Montfort. So it's got lots of different programs and lots of different focuses. Fashion with marketing and creative writing and fashion wear and foot styles. There's lots of different things that you can study, and the range of programs are very unique. They're not just your standard programs. There's lots of different mixes of programs that will really help you get knowledge of two different elements within the same program. And what I mean by that is, for example, business management in sports. You know, it's not just business management, it's not just sport, it's how to manage a business within the sports industry. And many programs like that really appeal to many students. There's a Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Media, again, very, very good for this type of program. Computing and cybersecurity, they're one of the best in the country. So it's just to help you understand that there are many different programs from different areas that you can apply to and have a look at. And the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences, again, very practical. Many of these training nurses or training people in Faculty in Health and Life Sciences are now working to combat COVID-19. De Montfort are on the front line with their students to try and develop ways of helping with this crisis. And many come from the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences. It's very highly ranked in the UK. And just a little bit about accommodation. There's plenty of accommodation for students living on campus. I say on campus, it's within the city and all very nice, and again, very good value. So you don't need to be too concerned about the price of the accommodation because it's quite low in comparison to other places in the UK. One thing that I wanted to talk about is about DMU Global. DMU are very good at helping students get internships and go on trips abroad. And why? Because if you have a global experience and you work or you do academic trips or you do volunteering or placements, it really helps your CV after you finish. And every single program has a global trip, and the university offer this as a bonus for the student at basically very little price. For example, you could do a placement in New York for as little as just £200. So you contribute just £200 towards this trip, and De Montfort University pay for the rest. So you have this whole experience about being global and having experience in your industry or your program with a foreign context. And it's very useful for when you come back to have a global experience and global understanding. And these are just some of the things that you could do. Fashion buying in Hong Kong, or International School of Gravity in Moscow, or working in Vietnam. You can go to Kiev or Udine, Japanese healthcare experience, sustainable business in Trinidad. These are just some of the things that are academic-led trips, and there's many, many more. In fact, they have a whole department of people supporting DMU Global. This isn't just something that you say, oh, well, I'll go and try and find something myself. They help you and they give you these options. So it's very, very good. And you can see some of the happy students here doing their various things in different places around the world. Of course, at the moment, it's a little bit more difficult. We're all confined to our homes, but I hope that we'll be all about and traveling the world after this crisis obviously diminishes. I just wanted to show you a little bit about subject ranking, so you get a little feel about where does De Montfort sit amongst rankings. And they're good. They're very, very good. They're always consistently within the top percentile of universities and programs in the UK. For anything art related, they're the best in Europe. They have a very good reputation. And for most of these programs, they have a very good reputation. The level of teaching is very good. And another thing to remember is that the professors are also very close to their students. You won't just be a number, you'll be involved in group talks and lectures, and the professors are always very interested in being involved with students. So you get that very close community feel. Talking about English language, at the moment with the English language, of course, their IELTS centres are closed. So what does De Montfort say? We say that if you want to apply and study with us, we will run our own English test free of charge and online. So anybody that wants to apply to our university gets the chance to apply and can pass the English language test with De Montfort. So you don't need to worry about TOEFL or IELTS. You can take our date test. If you get the score required, you can enter the university. And it's a very good bonus plus for students that want to study with us. Well, that's it really. I think I've spoken enough. I've spoken for 20 minutes now. This is just a little bit about where you can follow DMU and have a look on our Facebook page, YouTube. But please do have a look, because you will see that people that study at De Montfort are very, very happy. Very, very happy. They come back different, change students for the better. And you always hear students saying that De Montfort is a university for the students. You go there and you feel like you are part of a community. You're not just there as a student and another number. You are a part of a community. And everybody that works in De Montfort will say the same, that it's a community feel and a very nice university to study at. And you will get a very good level of education and very good level of teaching from professors if you study there. So again, I really, really recommend that you investigate the option of applying to De Montfort with the lovely staff at Inova, who will help you with everything that you need, whatever you need. And I will be on hand if you wanted to do any Skype calls in the future with any of the Inova staff team and myself. I'll be more than happy to talk to you in detail. If you wanted to have a Skype call, perhaps with any students that are currently studying at De Montfort from the Latin region, from Latin America, of course, I can arrange that with Inova. We're here to support you. We understand it's a difficult time, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that if you want to apply and study at De Montfort, we can make that happen and get you there as soon as possible. So, of course, Fabiola, I'll welcome any questions now, and I'll pause my microphone, or should I just wait for people to write on there?
Thank you, Jamie, very much for that. If students actually want to write on the chat, that would be a good idea, and then we can reply to your questions, or Jamie can reply to your questions.
Thank you, Fabiola. So, attendee 6, I don't see your name, but I'll call you attendee 6. The sports scholarship is a very good question. You have to have a good level. You can't be just a person that plays football on a Sunday or in your backyard. You have to have a very good level of sport, and you have to try and prove that. If you show that you are a member of a sports club, that you consistently play sport at a very good level, that you are part of a team, that you maybe are a captain, then you have a good chance of you can apply for the sports scholarship. It's very competitive, but what you must show is that you play a very high level of sport, and that you must show. So if you're interested in applying for the sports scholarship, once you apply for the university and get your offer, you can then apply for the sports scholarship, and I can have you perhaps speak to one of our members of the faculty members to talk to you about that sports scholarship and how to apply. Any sport is considered. Any sport is a sport and is considered, as long as you don't make up the sport like jumping over your couch, over your sofa. You know, I mean, I'm talking about a sport that's recognized, but any sport is considered. How can we do the English test from De Montfort? Do you have a lot of Latin American students? Great question. Well, the first thing is, you could do the test online. We're just finalizing the details of when, and then we will let Inova know when the test is available, and then you'll be able to sit that test online. The details of exactly when will come out within the next 2 weeks, but it will be very shortly that you will be able to submit the test. We say that the test is usually for students that have already submitted an application. So if you do want to take the De Montfort test, I suggest that you begin applying to the university. Do we have a lot of Latin American students? Our community of Latin American students is small but growing. At the moment, I couldn't give you the number off the top of my head, but I believe I can't get the number off the top of my head, but we do have good Latin American students, not lots and lots and lots, but the community of Latin American students is growing. And actually, if you speak to Latin American students that are there, they will speak very highly of De Montfort. And again, if you want to talk to any Latin American students, please do let me know, let the Inova team know, and I can arrange those Skype calls. So what if the uni remains closed in September? Can I get my deposit back and study in 2021? Yes, of course you can. Of course you can. If you want to get your deposit back, then De Montfort will give you the deposit back. There's no problem. However, I can say that the uni will not be closed in September. What will basically happen is one of two things. Either your program will be changed to a January start, if that's possible, and if not, then the September start will be part online, and then in January time, you'll be able to go and study as you would have done usually. Let's see, can the £2,000 scholarship be combined with any other types of funding? No, it can't. It can't be. So whatever's greater in terms of your funding you will get. So unfortunately, we can't combine scholarships. So you can apply for different scholarships, and the highest one that you get will be applied to your tuition fees. Yeah, okay, so attendee 14, do you have university clubs? What other activities can we do in Leicester? There are lots and lots and lots and lots of university clubs, and actually at the beginning of the year there is a fair with all of the different university clubs that you can attend, and there are lots. They're very big in sport, they're very big in drama, so you can find a club that you would like to attend, and then you can join that club with no problem. In terms of activities in Leicester, it's a very interesting place. I mean, it's very compact, so you have many things very close to each other, but there's theatres, there's lots and lots of nightlife and things to do for students. So actually, when you go to the university, you'll see that Leicester is very focused on students, and the university have lots of things directed to students, so you'll never get bored. I have the IELTS. Is it necessary to do the English exam again? No, it's not. You don't need to do the English language test again. If you've already taken IELTS and you have the correct score to enter the university, you can just use that test. The date test is just for students that perhaps haven't taken a test already or don't have the score and want to do the De Montfort own test online, then that's going to be available for you and free of charge. Does anybody else have any other questions about De Montfort? Well, guys, I just want to thank you for your time and listening to this presentation. I hope that it's given you some insight. Oh, we've got another one. Can tuition fees be paid in installments? Yes, it can. It can. De Montfort are very good with helping students pay in installments, and there is an installment plan. The only caveat, the thing that I think you should remember, is that when you apply for your visa, you must show that you have all of the tuition fees available at once in a bank account. So you may have to have that money available, but then you can pay in installments over the year. That is possible, and it can really help you. Okay, my pleasure. If anybody else has any other questions, please talk to the fantastic Inova team. They will help you with everything you need. And I hope that this presentation has, one, helped you understand that it might not be as expensive as you thought to study in the UK, and actually some of the myths around it being more expensive to live in the UK than many places in Europe, and that the US may be cheaper in tuition fees, that sort of debunked that myth and helped you understand that there are options accessible for students from Latin America, and that De Montfort is a university for you. It wants you to be there. We want Latin students. We want to support you. We want to help you with what you need. And I'm sure that if you go and study at De Montfort, you will be very happy there. And I know from past experience from students that they are always coming back speaking very highly of the university. And I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with whichever student you'd like to talk to especially from Latin America, about their experience at De Montfort.
Thank you everybody for being here, and thank you so much, Jamie, for this presentation. It has been very, very helpful. We have recorded it, so we will probably share it with you after a while, but thank you very much everybody for being here. And remember that in Inova Education, we can help you to apply to De Montfort with the scholarship process and with the visa process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabiola, and take care, everybody. Keep safe.